Greetings and welcome to Flanigan's Ecologic. I am your host, Ted Flanigan, and this week we are talking coffee. While it is, of course, a morning ritual for many of us, it has profound social and environmental impacts that must be addressed. Etelle Higonnet is the founder and director of Coffee Watch, a nonprofit with a goal for coffee to be produced ethically, sustainably, in dignity for people who grow it. Etelle, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Oh, it's lovely to be here. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Well, it's my luck. And are you in France as we speak?
No, most of my family is there, but my husband works for the United Nations, so we get moved around quite a bit. And right now we're in Denmark.
I had that in my notes, but it didn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't make much sense at all. We started in West Africa, then Southeast Asia, then headquarters of the UN in New York, now Denmark.
Well,
Go figure.
I'm not surprised.
Yes.
Are you in Copenhagen, I presume, or
We're in
Copenhagen?
Copenhagen. We're in Copenhagen. So here we are, a French American married to a Brazilian who met in West Africa, living in Copenhagen.
Truly a global citizen. You are. That's great. That's great. That is one of my favorite cities. I'm part Danish too, so I'm very proud of Denmark.
It's an amazing ecological model for me.
Yeah.
I just was blown away when I moved here. Bikes everywhere, EVs everywhere, all these wind turbines as far as I can see all along the horizon. Mandatory composting, where they give you these free little composting bags and baskets, the whole thing. The city just seems to be like a true beacon on the hill for environmental excellence. It made me sort of ashamed of Paris. I love Paris so much, but I thought, oh shoot, we're so far behind.
Yeah, we need the model to draw us all in that direction because it's such a great quality of life there. Well, let's dive right into coffee. Here's a few statistics. 180 to 200 million American adults drink it every day. In the United States, 146 billion cups per year. Globally, 800 billion cups of coffee each year. It was interesting that Finland seems to be the leader in terms of drinking the most coffee. I don't quite know why.
They're the most coffeeholic addicts of all. But you know, one thing that just strikes me as very funny, Americans are more likely to drink coffee than pray or exercise.
There you go. That's right. Yeah. So many people that we know just say, I can't even function until I've had my cup of Joe, right?
Me too. I'm like a little discombobulated hedgehog if I don't get coffee in the morning.
Isn't it funny? It's just been although I guess globally, more tea is the more common drink, right, across the globe. But
I think tea knocks it out of the park mostly because of India and China. But yeah, it's about 2 billion people a day drinking 2.2 billion cups a day. It's kind of nuts, right? It's a lot.
It's a lot.
We're very addicted.
It really is. And coffee ice cream. Ooh, now we're talking. I just love it.
Oh, coffee ice cream, tiramisu. There's just so many great ways to have coffee in your life.
Okay, well, let's dig into this. I mean, and there are some health benefits from what moderate daily intake of coffee, I guess. But
we should say health benefits for consumers. Sometimes that's true, absolutely, Ted. But the people who make the coffee often get poisoned and sometimes even killed.
Yeah. Well, that's what we got to dive into. Let's dive into these. Let's dive into these. Let's start with the social and environmental impacts. Let's start with the what you just got into. I know that most coffee farmers are in poverty. There's child labor. There's slave labor. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So if you drink coffee, you're definitely drinking poverty. That's just the norm. That's pretty much every cup of coffee that anyone ever drinks, unless you're very specifically looking for the few coffee companies that pay a living income price to farmers, which is very rare, then you're drinking poverty. Coffee industry gives us two things. It gives us coffee, and it gives us about 125 million people in poverty, right? Because there's like 12.5 million farms and about 25 million farmers and 100 million farm workers. And because it gives us all this poverty, it gives us another dirty, bitter gift, which is child labor. My guess is that we have yet to only scratch the surface of how much child labor there is in coffee. But when you look at all the different studies that have been done that are kind of apples and oranges, because there's different NGOs and different academics doing studies in Ethiopia and in Colombia and in Vietnam and in Brazil and in Costa Rica and Indonesia and such, you add it up, there are millions of kids working in coffee. And usually this is not nice labor that you do after school that's like appropriate for children. This is usually backbreaking, grueling, exhausting work that takes kids out of school. It exposes them to toxic pesticides, heavy loads, sharp objects, things. I'm a mom. Mm-hmm. If my child was going to have to do that, I would like scream.
Yeah.
This is the coffee industry, because it gives us so much poverty, is giving us this dirty little secret, which is that maybe a third, maybe half of our coffee is tainted by child labor. And then the last thing that you mentioned that's really important on the social side, coffee is one of the top drivers of modern slavery in Brazil. Brazil's the #1 coffee producer. Coffee basically takes turns with construction and cattle to see like, ooh, who's going to be #1 for slavery this year?
Yeah.
Year in, year out. So I would say, yeah, coffee gives us slavery, child labor, poverty, and it is driving 1% of global deforestation, give or take, every year. It's the #6 driver of deforestation in the whole world.
Let's get to that in just a second, the deforestation, but I want to talk a little bit more about this poverty because naive question coming from Flanigan. Why is it that the coffee workers, the average coffee workers, living on $2 to $3 a day, which the World Bank considers poverty, or even extreme poverty if it's a couple dollars a day? But is this, here's the question, is it just because we as consumers are not willing to pay more for coffee, that the producers are trying to bring the cost down so low that we drink more? What's the cause of the poverty and the child labor and the slavery?
Consumers would be willing to pay. It literally just costs a couple cents more per cup. Think about how consumers will pay like $7 for a mochaccino. Yeah, exactly. Or, even an average like cappuccino or whatever, it can be like $3.12, so people definitely are willing to pay a couple cents extra. In fact, they regularly are asked to. The price of coffee fluctuates all the time. It goes up and down, like with Trump's tariff wars, price of coffee went up. Demand did not change. People literally just will pay more for coffee because, as you were saying earlier, they need it, they want it, they love it. It's like vital for starting their day. So I don't think that people who argue that consumer demand is the problem, I don't think they're telling the truth. I think that's a lie. But I think that it's important also to say the low price of coffee is not inevitable. There was well over a decade when the price of coffee was stabilized, and it was a living income price. And actually the middle class in Vietnam and in Colombia was kind of built off the back of that decade plus of stabilized higher prices. But then that agreement fell apart, prices plummeted, and they've been fluctuating, but basically very low ever since. And I would say that just shows we can fix this. As humanity, we've proven that we can do it. We did it before, we can do it again. We are choosing not to fix this. Society, consumers, industry, producer and consumer governments, we are making an active choice that we want coffee to be slavery coffee, child labor coffee, poverty coffee. That's what we want as a society. And I think that's frankly nuts.
Yeah.
I feel like most people don't know. And if they knew, they would be like, I'm not cool with that.
Right. No, I think most people don't. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know. But now let's point the finger. Is it the distributors of the coffee that are pushing the price down or keeping the price so low?
Oh, totally. The industry is responsible for this.
The industry is responsible. Okay.
They bear the lion's share of the responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the powerful consumer countries, Europe, US, UK, Japan, Korea, these countries are the countries that bear the second biggest share of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say the producer governments also have abdicated their duty to their people to fix this. I could see you even drinking coffee, and guess what? I just drink coffee too. We're both like either in the process or have just done. Like, coffee is magic. It makes the world go round. It's so great and delicious and amazing, and I love it. By the way, I also think it's totally fixable. If I didn't, I would not be
Yep.
doing my job.
Right. And that is what you're doing. You're Coffee
Yeah.
Watch, you founded in 2024, I believe, and your mission is to raise awareness about this and to fix it. And
My mission is to fix coffee.
wasn't there a fix in the chocolate industry, or at least a partial fix in the cocoa industry?
Look, when I worked on cocoa, I started in 2017. At the time, there was no awareness of deforestation in cocoa. Everybody in the news and in governments and industry and civil society was very focused on deforestation. And the top titans, which I've also worked on, the top titans of deforestation is cattle, soy, palm oil,
Yep.
pulp, and paper. And people just totally ignored cocoa and rubber. And when I was at Mighty Earth as campaigns director, I helped to start these big campaigns to end deforestation in cocoa and in rubber. And I remember at first people looked at me like I was a complete banana pants lunatic, like one of these ladies that, strips naked on the subway and starts like masturbating and like shrinking a Bethel Bible trying to convert it. Like that's the kind of reception so shocked. Like, what are you talking about? But I would say that pretty quickly, science and evidence won over a lot of folks, at least in government and media and civil society and some consumers, to kind of basically understand, wow, cocoa and rubber are driving deforestation. And that big wave of awareness, it translated into a magic wave of major corporate action, which is by no means enough. We've only just started to reform the industry, but at least, every step on the path is a good one. And for me, I feel almost as proud moving an industry from F- to D+ as from D+ to A+, because it's like half the battle,
Yeah. Say that again. The big seven of deforestation. I think coffee production is like responsible for about 5% of deforestation. But what are the biggest causes? There's 7 commodities that are causing deforestation worldwide. What are they? Cattle
You
is
can
one.
think of it as it's like the 7 horsemen of the apocalypse. It's the 7 apocalypse horsemen for deforestation. Cattle is the biggest by far. Cattle is bigger than everybody else combined.
Yeah.
Cattle is really bad. And cattle is actually interesting because it's not just beef. Cattle is in your pet food. It's in your beef, obviously, but it's also in all the leather, like your handbag, your car seats, things like that. So cattle's number 1. And then after cattle, you have palm oil, pulp and paper, and soy.
Yeah.
Those are really pretty awful as well. Those are the titans, the 4 titans. But if you unpack and you go just under those 4 titans, cocoa, coffee, and rubber, they're pretty globally significant.
Yeah.
They are like coffee alone is 1% of global deforestation.
Say that again. It's what percent?
Coffee alone is 1% of global deforestation.
It is. Okay. So when you're drinking that latte every morning, it's not just slave labor, child labor, but deforestation, which results in regional climate change, regional weather patterns, more droughts. It's just like a negative feedback cycle, right?
That's exactly right. And I would also add that forest destruction is one of the biggest drivers of the mass extinction crisis that we're in. Ted, nobody in their right mind goes into a Starbucks and says, please, I would like my oat milk latte with a side of dead jaguar. Or like, oh, Ted, could you make me a coffee this morning? I'm so tired, but I would really like it if it could have like a dead orangutan in it. No one, when you go to someone's house or you go to a cafe, people have no idea that they're drinking mass extinction. They just don't know.
Right. And why wouldn't a Starbucks, which is a hugely profitable organization, why wouldn't Starbucks get involved in this and try to raise the bar a little bit here? Pay workers more.
I think one reason why the coffee industry has been asleep at the wheel and not
Yeah.
fixing its deforestation problem is that up until Coffee Watch really started banging on the drum all the time, there wasn't a consistent challenge from civil society. And it's really not the fault of civil society because a lot of places where coffee is grown, these are some of the most dangerous places in the world, like narco states, places with civil wars, places with horrible other problems. Think about the top coffee producing country in the world, Brazil.
Yeah.
It is also bedeviled by even worse deforestation for cattle and soy than for coffee. If your house was getting attacked by a rapist, a carjacker, and a killer, you would probably just let the carjacker like take your car and fight the two. So in Brazil,
Yeah.
most civil society folks are very focused on cattle and soy, and rightly so. When you have very few resources, you have to focus on the biggest threat. So that's Brazil. Let's also not forget Brazil is one of the most dangerous places to be a human rights or environmental activist. But like number 2 coffee producing country, Vietnam, it's a ruthlessly repressive dictatorship. It is not possible to dissent about what's happening in the Central Highlands, which is where 95% of coffee is grown in Vietnam. It's all grown in this like amazing basaltic plateaus called the Central Highlands. These beautiful mountains, which are now destroyed. Their forests. Like Vietnam lost forests the size of Luxembourg, and Brazil lost forests the size of Honduras for coffee. But, you know, even I am terrified to go to Vietnam and complain about this because I'm worried they're going to put me in jail and I'll never see my son again. And let's think about like the third biggest coffee producer in the world is Indonesia. They have even worse palm oil and pulp and paper deforestation. So no wonder civil society has not been giving the coffee industry a hard time. And Colombia, which is the 4th biggest coffee producing country, it's had a hugely awful civil war with like, people being killed and tortured, and like narco states like Honduras and Ethiopia just had 600,000 people die in Tigray war. Like it's the birthplace of coffee. It's the top producer in Africa, but it is so dangerous to go investing in coffee. It's so hard. I think that's a big reason why civil society has not forced industry to like deal with this.
Yeah, boy, that explains that. Now you're banging the drum as you stated. How do you do that? I mean, which I take it you're not going to you're not going to the growers. You're mostly raising awareness with the consumers. Is that right?
We actually have done undercover investigations in some of the most dangerous places in the world where coffee is grown. We've had teams do investigations in China, in Yunnan, which is where all Chinese coffee comes from, pretty much. We've done investigations in Brazil, in Colombia, in Uganda, in Kenya, like just Mexico. And Mexico is not one of the most dangerous countries per se, but Chiapas, which is where most of the biggest place for coffee in Mexico, the places where coffee is grown in Chiapas are 80% controlled, not by the government. It's mostly controlled.
The cartels, right?
So when I say like we put our lives on the line to get this information, I literally mean we take our lives into our 2 hands. Our teams like are risking their lives to get this information. We do undercover investigations. We do satellite mapping where you can map deforestation from space in a way that's completely accurate. You can do very granular satellite mapping now with very good technology. It's getting cheaper and cheaper all the time. And we produce reports. And then those reports we give to media, we give to social media. Some amazing influencers have like posted about stuff that we've done. So we estimate, they've gotten like 400 plus media articles about our stuff. We got the New York Times quote of the day. I think most people are so shocked to find out what's happening in the coffee. I'm really shocked and upset.
It's shocking. It's horrifying.
Crazy. Yeah. I was shocked when I found out how bad some of this stuff was.
Yeah. Golly,
totally.
Yeah. And so you do these undercover investigations, write reports, publicize it, shock people, and then what are we looking? What do we want people to do? What do you want people to do?
I should say we've also sued some of the world's biggest coffee companies for human trafficking and slavery and labor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've sued companies in the United States and in Germany. Nestle, Starbucks, Neumann Cafe Gruppe, McDonald's, Illy, JDE Peet's, Duncan, we've commenced strategic litigation against them in multiple jurisdictions. And I don't want to live in a world where you can commit these kinds of crimes with like kids, slaves, human trafficking, rape, deforestation, highly hazardous pesticides. I don't think it's right to be in a world where that's okay and there's no legal accountability. I was trained as a lawyer. I'm a huge believer in justice. I'm like a justice warrior on this one. I want justice. I think that companies should not be allowed to get away with having this kind of coffee in their supply chains.
Yeah. Let's go back just for a couple minutes and talk about your upbringing, because as I understand it, you were traveling with your family at a very young age and in maybe Honduras or somewhere, and you got really focused on human rights issues, and you sort of had this dream of working for Doctors Without Borders, and then you went off to college in Connecticut at Yale, undergrad, and you got your law degree at Yale. I think you wanted to become an international a lawyer to fight these human right travesties. Am I getting this about right? You had this from a very young age, right?
That's right. My parents brought me to Honduras just to visit these gorgeous ruins, these ancient ruins, like nestled in the jungle, where it's called Copan. This amazing civilization had ruled for, hundreds of years and produced really superb art as this mixture of nature and art that's like unforgettable. And so we went to Honduras, and I remember seeing these kids like sniffing glue, like street children, right next to the hotel where we had stopped in Tegucigalpa in the capital, and then the police came and like beat them up. And I tried to get my parents to help me get the front desk of the hotel to report the police to the police, because I just couldn't believe that it would be okay to abuse small children. And I was so shocked to discover that there was nothing we could do. And I thought from that moment on, like, there are a lot of things in the world that are not right. And I just can't let it go. Like, we have to do something to make this better. This is crazy.
Yeah. And then you went off you got your law degree in Yale. You wanted to be a war crimes prosecutor, I understand.
So I actually went and I worked in 2 war crimes tribunals. And I did want to be an international lawyer, and it was very fascinating to work in these war crimes tribunals. I learned so much, but I realized that one of the things that I loved the most, that I was best at, was to do the investigations that power prosecutions. And so I sort of diverged from doing international human rights litigation to documenting war crimes and crimes against humanity. And I did that for, quite some time. And then had this moment where I realized, wow, climate change is a disaster and it's going to cause so many more deaths and suffering of people and more human rights abuses. So maybe I should be working more on climate issues. That's when I pivoted and went to Greenpeace.
Right.
And sort of tried to marry human rights and environmental activism there, because I often think it's the 2 sides of the same coin, right? The same companies and industries that are doing terrible things to people are also doing it to the planet. If they're screwing over farmers, they are often also screwing over forests.
Where did your bravery come from? You worked in Haiti, Guatemala, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Iraq, Lebanon. Now you're working in, like you said, in very, very dangerous conditions. What drives you, Etelle, to do that? Thank you for doing what you're doing, but it seems like it's you have a very, very strong conviction, and you're very brave.
I actually feel scared all the time. And it's so hard, but I just really believe in this. So I feel like this is the only way I know to try to make things right. And therefore, whether it's scary or not, I guess I have to keep at it and just try my best, And
have you built a team in Coffee Watch of similarly compassionate souls?
Oh, an amazing team. I could not do this for a single day without them.
Mm.
I am so blessed and lucky. My God. I mean, the team is amazing. Our consultants who have helped do undercover research, often with local NGOs, they are absolute heroes. Totally, I am in awe of them and so filled with gratitude. And then, when you start a new NGO, it's hard. It's so hard. Oh my God. It's just like building a website and building a social media platform and like all this stuff is really
A lot
hard.
of work. A lot of
All up,
work.
and
And
I feel like I could not have done it without the help and love and encouragement of so many former colleagues and friends from Human Rights Watch days and Amnesty days and Greenpeace days and Mighty Earth days. All these people from my past just kind of being the wind under my wings and lifting me up and keeping me going. It's thanks to them in no small part that I am here. So yeah, I am the recipient of immense love and kindness. And
that's great. Thank
yeah,
goodness.
love makes the world go
And
round.
where is your funding coming from? I'm sure you need more, but where is it coming from?
We had some small dollar donations. We've had almost nothing from foundations. Only one foundation gave us about 20,000, and one foundation gave us 1,000. One gave us 2,500. But mostly we've just used my savings.
Mm-hmm. You're totally dedicated. Totally dedicated. Let's shift to solutions to the problem. Obviously, raising awareness is a huge step. In my naivete, I thought that certification programs would be a really big part of the solution to the coffee crisis that we're discussing. But that's not enough, is it?
No. Most certifications, if you read the fine print, they themselves will tell you that they're not delivering real sustainability. They'll deliver partial sustainability. Like, Tide, what if I told you, I'm going to sing the alphabet for you? And then I said A, B, C, D, E, Q, T, V, Z.
Hmm.
Then what are you talking about?
Got part way, right?
That would be very weird. You would not consider me to be a proficient alphabet singer, right? You'd send me to like remedial education. Like, take organic, for example. Organic is great in the sense that they don't douse our coffee with pesticides, so they're not driving the poisoning of people and planet, which is a big part of mass extinction crisis that we're in. But by its own admission, organic does not do anything about deforestation, agroforestry versus monoculture, women's rights, as opposed to letting people get raped and having no equality between gender, which is how like a lot of coffee is today. By its own admission, organic does nothing on child labor, on unions, really, on slavery. They'll just say, like, that's not our wheelhouse. But that's kind of misleading, because I'm pretty sure when you go to a store and you ask for organic coffee, you assume that it is pretty sustainable across the board. You don't think that it's just nothing for all those other issues. But we could have this conversation about every single certification. They often will do one thing or a couple things, but not a lot of things, and they'll do it not very well or partly well. And it's such a big higgledy-piggledy confusing mix. It is really problematic. And there is not a single coffee certification that pays a living income price to the farmers and guarantees a living wage to the farm workers. That just does not happen. Zero.
What about the term fair trade that comes up a lot in the coffee world?
It's a certification. It is a certification. They just started recently offering something called living income reference price on demand. So if you wish to pay living income price, you can, but you don't have to.
You mean when you go and buy a cup of coffee, you can do that?
No. The companies that get the certification, they can choose to pay a living income price or not. And so far, to my knowledge, no coffee companies have stepped up to say, why, yes, I would like to pay the living income reference price for LERP on demand. That just hasn't really manifested yet, which means that you as a consumer, when you buy something that says fair trade coffee on it, it is not paying a living income price.
Mm-hmm. So
unless they do that separately from the certification, like on top of the certification.
So what should people listening to this podcast do to support this a transition away from all these abuses that we've been talking about?
I would say dedicate 1 hour of your life to figuring out good ethical coffee that's close to you, that represents your values. And it changes, like here in Denmark, I can get something called slow forest coffee. If you're in London, you can go to Kiss the Hippo. It depends where you are in the world. Wherever you are in the world, there's almost certainly some good, ethical, sustainable coffee that you can buy. So just research it, figure out what it is, order a bunch of things, taste it, and see which one you like the best. Is it the floral notes, or do you like something with more acidity? Do you want something more full-bodied? You get a bunch of these good, ethical, sustainable coffees, choose your favorite, and then just put yourself in a regular routine of ordering that coffee. How much do you drink a week? How much do you drink every month? You just order. Then you never really have to think about it ever again. Just clean up your coffee. That's a big one. And the other thing I would say is we are all part of institutions. If you can convince your university or your office or your mosque or your church or your bowling alley or whatever to transform their coffee, you become an ambassador for bigger, better change. And last but not least, you don't even need to change your coffee if you don't want to. If you want to keep drinking exactly the same brand, all you have to do is go on social media and say, I am your loyal customer. I demand better coffee from you. Please give me sustainable coffee. If all that seems too complicated, just follow social media, Coffee Watch, follow us on Twitter or Blue Sky or Facebook or Insta or TikTok or LinkedIn or whatever it is. And we have lots of little suggestions that are easy, like one-stop clicks that we put out.
Get educated, boy. Etelle, thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for raising this awareness on this issue. Really appreciate your time and what you do.
I am so grateful to you, Ted, and to all your listeners who I think are probably beautiful souls who, for the most part, are good warriors for people and planets. I hope that this inspires them to become coffee warriors as well.
Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks for listening to Flanigan's Ecologic. We'll see you next time.